start out with your presentation, we can go ahead and start recording from there. And that way we can share with any of the folks who aren't able to be in attendance today live.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for having me. If whoever is the host of the Zoom meeting could allow me to share my screen, then I can share a few slides while I talk.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. All right, so yeah, my name is Marissa and I'm from Sustainable Coastlines, Hawaii. I have a little background slide about me since my video camera on my laptop doesn't work today. So this is me. I am Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii's Data Systems Coordinator. I was born and raised here in Honolulu, and I just graduated from Cal Poly in December.
Hey.
Thank you. With a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Management and Protection. I started out as an intern for Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii, and I'm now in a part-time position managing our data. So I'm going to go through just a little bit of background on what today's presentation will consist of, just a quick overview of our organization, and then go into data collection at cleanups, talking a little bit about the important metrics to collect and then how to actually collect it and report the data. And then I'll go into just a Q&A section where you all can ask me questions. So just for background, our organization's mission is to inspire local communities to care for their coastlines. And our vision is a world where all of our oceans and waterways and coastlines are free from plastic pollution. And our organization started around 10 years ago with a group of friends who were motivated to make a difference after they saw how much pollution is on our local beaches. And our organization is very grassroots, volunteer driven. And for the first 10 years or so, we did not focus very much on data. And that's because of the lack of capacity for it. It takes a lot to really collect all the data and manage it and actually put it to good use. And for a while, we only really had one paid person and all volunteers. So there wasn't a lot of interest necessarily in data, but recently we've realized how important data really is to collect for our organization. And so we've made it a much bigger priority. And that's why we created my position and now have a part-time position dedicated just to data. So why do we collect data? The data we collect serves to expand and advance our mission and impact while aligning us with our core principles. And so not only does data help us understand the impact we actually have on the coastlines and on the community here, we can also use it for storytelling and sharing a more expansive and data-driven, fact-based narrative about what plastic pollution is and the problem that it creates and how we can solve it. It also provides us with education content, metrics to report on, things to share with people so that they can really wrap their heads around the problem and understand it from a data-driven perspective. And that's not just numbers, but also just like I said, storytelling. So we have facts to support how we talk about the issue. Furthermore, collecting data is really important to constantly updating our understanding of the issue, because we know that it's a problem, but the more we know about the problem, the more we know about how we can address it. And so collecting data helps us just develop a better understanding over time of what the problem really is and how we should be addressing it most effectively. Like I said, it also helps us measure our success and impact. So as a nonprofit organization, we do need to report on what we do and what we've accomplished to the people who provide us with funding. So reporting back on key performance indicators for grants, and also just measuring for ourselves how successful we are so that we can constantly be improving. Lastly, collecting data actually helps us engage with the community better, because the data we collect is not just quantitative marine debris data at our cleanups, but also qualitative data and feedback from the community on what their experience is like with us, so that we can constantly improve the way we're educating the community, interacting with them, and giving them a great experience at our events so that they can really take away a positive message from all of our events and understand how they can better engage with this community of people that are trying to address plastic pollution. So some of the key metrics that we collect at our beach cleanups include the following. So first, we want to answer these questions: when, where, who, and how long. So that includes taking really accurate location data, making sure we jot down what dates we're cleaning, the time that we're cleaning, and the time that we're cleaning includes how long we've been cleaning. So that way we can understand, okay, we cleaned this beach on this date for this many hours. And that helps us just kind of track also how much trash is really there on the beach to clean, because if we find that year over year we're cleaning a lot less trash with the same amount of volunteers, it might mean that there's less trash that's on that beach. And so all of this data will kind of help inform that those long-term trends. We also want to document which partners we're working with so that we can always know who has been involved in helping us make this impact, and also who we want to keep working with in the future, and who we maybe aren't engaging with enough and need to reach out to more. So we want to make sure that we keep track of our partners. And then we know also who is helping support our organization a lot and who we can help support. Those are kind of just like the logistics of the cleanup metrics. And then we also want to collect data on what we actually collect at the cleanup. So this includes the amount and composition of the debris collected. And I'll go into this a little bit more on the next slide. Lastly, we want to document where all of the trash is going. So not all of the trash goes into trash bins or to the dump or to H-Power, right? We also want to make sure that we're diverting as much waste as possible and not just sending it all to H-Power. If you're not aware what H-Power is, it's where all of our trash goes on the island, and they burn it and try to collect energy off of the burning trash, and in order to create more electricity. H-Power is not the greatest thing, so we want to make sure we divert as much trash away from that as possible by recycling it and upcycling trash. So when we recycle trash, usually it's metal recycling and high five recycling for bottles and cans. And then for upcycling, we can actually sometimes use the trash to create art projects to inspire the community, and then also sending it to other organizations that are actually using marine debris and hard plastics to create new products out of them. And so this is really innovative space for collaboration, and also just like creating new opportunities for debris that we find at cleanups. Making sure that that's not the end of its life. So all of this is really important to collect for the reasons I've mentioned beforehand: tracking our impact, telling the story of what we're doing, and just making sure that we understand what kind of debris is out there and where it's going. So in terms of documenting the composition of debris, when you're doing a small cleanup on your own, it may be easiest to kind of just track what you're picking up as you're doing it. That might mean carrying the data card with you and tallying items as you pick them up. However, for larger cleanups, this is not feasible. So what we do is we have a sorting station where we have volunteers specifically designated to sort trash into the labeled bins and keep track of the weights and the number of items that go into each bin. So the materials that we use usually include a really large tarp where we can spread the trash out on top of it. And then we have assorted bins where we label them for each category of trash that we're sorting. So for our cleanup in Kaimuki, for example, we were tallying the number of plastic takeout containers, styrofoam takeout containers, plastic utensils, plastic bottle caps, etc. So we had a bin separate for each item, and it was labeled with a picture of the item so that the sorting volunteers could identify which bin to put the items in. And then we have people designated to standing by each bin and tallying the number of items that go into the bin. When the bin is full, then we weigh it, tally the weight, or mark down the weight, and then we put all of the trash where it needs to go. So if it's cans and bottles, we send it to recycling, etc. This process is really dirty and it's very hard work. Our volunteers who do the data collection sorting are amazing. And they often have to dig through very hazardous things that get picked up at cleanups. So we like to make sure that they all have sturdy reusable gloves and pickers if they need to sort through really gross trash. Obviously, we're going to also need data sheets, pens, and clipboards for the people who are tallying trash, and that's a slightly less dirty job, which is nice for them. But yeah, this is kind of a newer process for our organization. So there's always little things that come up that you have to troubleshoot as you go. And at different cleanups, we're tallying different types of items. So for example, at our Kaimaki cleanup, everything is land-based trash for the most part. There's not really any marine debris in Kaimaki, obviously. So we were tallying a lot of different like foodware items. But at a beach cleanup in Waimanalo, for example, we're not going to find quite as many as those items. So we're focused a little bit more on marine debris. So the types of things that we're sorting at different cleanups might vary a little bit just based on what we know we're going to find and what we know will be most impactful to track. So the way that you all can contribute to this is by helping us at one of our big cleanups by signing up as a data volunteer. Or if you're going to do your own cleanup, we have DIY cleanup data cards, which is do-it-yourself cleanups. And you submit your results to be added to our database once you fill them out. So you can download a data card by scanning the QR code on this slide or visiting the website link bit.ly/SCH data card. That'll take you to a Google Drive PDF where you can download the data card and fill it out at your cleanup. And then once you fill it out, there's actually a QR code and a link on the data card that you can use to submit your data through a survey that we've created. And so this is our system for collecting data from volunteers who do their own cleanups, separate from our large cleanups where we will kind of oversee the entire data collection process. And at our large cleanups, we'll probably be collecting slightly different types of data than you will at your own cleanup because you're just doing it yourself. So we don't expect you to get all of the different categories, but there is the option to tally all of the separate things you're collecting if you want to. For the most part, the DIY cleanup data card is just to collect totals of the amount of trash you picked up, how long you cleaned, where you cleaned, how many people you're with, and just those overall metrics so that we can track how much people are cleaning on their own and want to contribute to our organization's data. One last way to contribute, if you're interested, is helping us to quantify microplastics. So this is an activity that we've created to help engage the public in our effort to help try to understand how many pieces of microplastic there are that we actually clean up off of beaches. So this is actually a metric that a lot of organizations that do beach cleanups do not track very well. A lot of organizations are pretty good at tracking the typical things like utensils and bottle caps and all of the things that are really easy to identify. But when it comes to tracking small things, usually organizations only track things that are larger than the size of like a quarter. And then they sometimes count fragments, but nobody really likes to sit there counting fragments at a cleanup. So we've created this activity to try to figure out how many pieces of microplastic fit on average per unit volume in various sized containers. And so we have an entire instruction sheet and activity for people to participate in. It's a great way to engage kids in counting little microplastic pieces, or just to sit down if you want to sand sift in the sand over on the east side where there's a lot of microplastic. You can just sit down with a friend, talk story, count microplastics, and fill up a jar. And the basic concept is that you're just filling up the entire jar, and then you report back to us the number of microplastics that it took to fill the jar and how big the jar was. This is just a really easy way for people to contribute. And eventually we'll be able to say, hey, look, we picked up this volume of microplastics at our cleanup. That means that that's approximately this many pieces of microplastic. And that's really effective data because sometimes we do cleanups where we say, oh, we picked up 10 pounds of microplastic, but people are like, okay, that's not that much. But if you think about it, 10 pounds of microplastic is probably millions of pieces. And that just really helps to tell the story of how big the problem is, even when the pieces are small. That jar right there in the photo that I'm holding is actually filled with 1,000 pieces of microplastic, and that's not even full. So yeah, it's a really cool way to really like wrap your mind around how big the problem is of plastic breaking down into these tiny pieces. And so if you're interested in participating in that, you can email me for more information. So that's all I had today in terms of the presentation, but I just wanted to open it up to any questions or comments, or if you all needed any more specific information from me on how to do data collection at beach cleanups. And I can also send you this slide deck if that's helpful as well.
Marissa, question. The way I want to do it is I want to have 3 people teams, and 2 people will be picking up, and 1 person, they'll be shouting or talking about what they picked up, and the person with the clipboard will duly log it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to do it as well. The only reason we don't do that at our big cleanups is because not everyone is willing to do that. But if you have everyone on board, that's a great way to approach it, because then you can get all the data as you go and not have to sort through it at the end, because it's kind of a longer process to have to sort through everything.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many ways to do it, and that's a really good one. Go ahead, Anke.
Yeah, hi, Marissa. Thank you. My name is Anke. I'm from the Rotary Club in Kaneohe. And we are all coming to Waimanalo on the 24th. I understand that you will be there with a sorting station, maybe not you, but your team. Is that correct? So we don't have to bring anything.
Yeah, so at the Waimanalo cleanup on April 24th, we will have a sorting station set up, and I will be there. And yeah, we'll have all the supplies, so you won't need to bring anything. And when everyone gets there, I'll be doing a training with all the volunteers who are helping with data. So yeah, people can just show right up. And
that's great. Since we're coming from different Rotary clubs, do you need our names? So a list of each club who is coming, or do we
yeah,
just
usually
keep track of, do we just keep track club by club, and with April, of course, but what do you need from us?
Yeah, usually we have everyone register on our Sustainable Coastlines Flip Cause page, which is the event registration. And there's an option to sign up for data collection volunteers. But since we're working with you all and we know a bunch of you are coming to the cleanup, I think if you're not already registered on the Flip Cause page, it might be full already. So when you come to the cleanup on April 24th, you can just come into the check-in table and sign in there, and we'll get your name and information there, because everyone who comes to our cleanups needs to fill out the waiver and just sign in. So at the check-in table, we will get all of that information that we need. And then if you're helping with data, they'll send you over to the sorting station after you check in.
Okay, we'll do that. And I can ask April later, because we have a waiver too for us. Maybe we have to fill out 2 waivers. So that's all.
Yeah, if I can interject, yes, if it's under a Rotary Club auspices, then they would sign the Rotary Club waiver, and they would also sign the Sustainable Coastlines waiver. Then both entities are protected.
All right, that's good. I'll let our members know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah. And so my group is going to be cleaning the Diamond Head to Kahala area. We should do both sides of the Diamond Head Road plus the beach and hillside. What do you think?
Yeah, so for Diamond Head area, I think most of the trash there is concentrated kind of in the bushes along the road and along the beach. And so sometimes it's a little bit hard to access in certain areas,
Yeah.
but I would say most of the trash is concentrated there. So if people want to focus kind of in that like the bushes kind of vegetation area, that's probably where you'll find most of the trash. Obviously, safety is always a concern. So making sure that people know kind of like where to go and where not to go and know their own boundaries. But yeah, I would say most of the trash is collected there.
All the way down to the reef, the beach.
Yeah.
So-
So I think if for the Diamond Head area, if you take the trail, there's like that paved trail all the way down to the beach from the top. If you take that trail all the way down and then you just clean basically on the beach, but up closest to the cliff, there will probably be some trash along there. And then if people want to do up on top by the road, there will probably be some trash kind of lined along the top edge of the vegetation along the road. But I would say venturing off the trail onto the hillside is probably too dangerous to actually do. So yeah.
Going from the Malchus side of the road, what do you think? You don't have to work on that part?
Yeah, the Malka side of the road, there's probably a little bit there too, but the part that I'm thinking of is kind of just the like the naupaka bushes. So there's probably not too much area to really cover. So I think if people split up, it's always good to kind of spread people out to cover different transects.
So we're gonna be going from 9 until 12 p.m. And then is there gonna be tables around there where we take our trash?
So Steve, I'm not sure this is a question for Marissa today. This is going to be through your club and your point of contact. So the data collection part for us Rotarians, it's up to us if we'd like to use the Sustainable Coastlines data card and submit that information to them. But any data collection, it will be up to your club in each location throughout the state to have. I highly recommend having a tent available, the tarp spread out. If you have tables, the bins, everything that Marissa talked about today, but just to underscore the safety, especially if you're cleaning up, it sounds like where you might be crossing roads. Does any other club have the Rotarians at Work Day, high visibility, bright yellow safety vests to wear the day of? I think Naomi, you gave one to Peely, which is awesome. Does anybody else have those to wear the day of?
I have some more.
Our
April,
club has them too.
Awesome.
Maui.
That it would be a really wonderful thing for anybody that does have them and in any kind of area where there is a kind of a safety concern where you need to be highly visible. I highly recommend wearing those day of.
How much are they, Naomi?
I think it was about $16 at Russell Hampton.
Mm.
So who needs those? I only have 10. Anybody?
I would gladly take 4.
Oh, you have some, Naomi?
I have 10.
Okay, I'll take 4. Wait, 1, 2. Yeah, I'll take 4.
And then if there's anybody else who could use them, it might be a good thing to have for your sign in tents the day of as well. So if people are coming to the area, it makes it really easy to find your Rotarians to sign in with the day of too.
Hello, my name is Mike. Can I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
I'm on Kauai, and I'm wondering if there's anybody else on this call that's with the Rotary Club of Poipu Beach on Kauai. Nobody?
Mike, no, actually they're having a meeting right now.
Well,
So
I must be in the wrong one then. This is only for Oahu?
no, this is statewide, but I know that Poipu was having their own meeting.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I'm with a company called HPM Building Supply, and we're partnering with the Poipu Beach Rotary Club for this event. And I was just trying to find out when we're starting. I was unaware of the fact they're having a meeting right now. But I can find out in other ways. I just wondering if there was anyone on the call. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Wow, that's great. HPM.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Mike.
Oh, sure. We do community service events every month, and we picked this one for April, and I think we're going to probably have half a dozen people show up for sure. So hopefully, and I'm kind of the one in charge of recruiting people and getting them out there. So I'm just trying to figure out when we're starting that day, so I know what to tell people. But I can find out.
And I believe, I'm not sure if he's the point of contact for the Poipu Beach, but John would be the point of contact for the island of Kauai.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all I had. Thanks for letting me butt in.
Anybody else have questions for Marissa in regards to the data collection and classification the day of?
Actually, I have a question. I'm working with high school students, and they've been organizing this for a couple months, and they voted not to do data collection because we're not doing beach cleanup and of the hazards that they will be picking up. But do you want kind of a general poundage and how many garbage bags, or since we're not going to do a more detailed, would you rather have us not collect data at all?
That's
a really. Oh, go ahead, Marissa,
Oh,
please.
sorry.
I was
just
thinking
gonna
the same
say-
thing. Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I totally understand not wanting to sort through the trash if you're doing like a street or stream cleanup, because it's a lot kind of grosser to sort through than a beach cleanup. If that's the case, we would love to still have total weight of trash collected. It's always great at every cleanup, even if you're not doing data collection, it's great to have a few key things, and that's number of volunteers, hours spent cleaning, and total weight of debris collected.
And
So,
then
yeah,
Lonnie,
that's-
just to check and see if I can share screen and just go over the data collection card for the Rotarians at Workday. We work to really simplify it and just, do the minimal things that we thought might be helpful for the day of. Let me just get that pulled up really quick. So I made a printable version available to have for your clipboards, and then also a digital version that can be shared that will enter the information the day of. Can everybody see like an Excel sheet?
Yep.
Yep.
So you'll see at the top, we have the location of the cleanup, and this should be applicable island-wide, the number of volunteers, but actually the hours spent doing it that Marissa just brought up might be another interesting bit of information to collect. But we just did the top 10 things given that we thought might be able to find at all the different locations. So Lonnie, I don't know if this might be something, if you're able to collect any amount of numbers, any data is better than no data. And like Marissa said, even if you could get the total weight at the end of the day, that might be helpful too. So this ideally will be the document used on site with a clipboard. And as Reese had mentioned, maybe you're hollering it out to that person. And then this next, this is the Google form that you would take those totals at the end of the day and enter in here. So that's just a visual of some of the top 10 things you might see. Again, we're asking for the location of your cleanup, the number of volunteers, and then just the number, how many plastic bags, how many pieces of utensils, how many bottle caps, but totally understand declining due to safety hazards. I don't want anybody doing anything they're not comfortable or feel safe doing. And thank you, Marissa, for kind of underscoring that this is dirty, hard work. And anybody who's doing the data collection component should be sure to have sturdy, hard, reusable gloves, not definitely not like nitrile gloves or something disposable, a little bit more sturdy to make sure we're protecting. And if you do have grabbers, that'd be even better. And if you're even second guessing or questioning the safety of something, don't touch it. It's not worth it. We're not here to, you know, die on the sword of data collection. It's just more of a little bit of information for us to collect at the end to see how much of an impact that we had statewide at each one of these locations. Does that sound okay to everyone?
Yep.
April, I have a few questions. This is Mariko.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So did you include disposal mask on that list?
I did not, and we kind of debated on what the top 10 things would be. And this is something that we can definitely modify, you know, going forward. I don't want this to be the last ridge to reef cleanup. And I also don't want people to get hung up on that. It's not just a beach cleanup. You know, again, this is for hiking trails. This is for parks, land-based, marine-based. And so we were torn about including, you know, getting rid of one thing and adding in masks or disposable gloves. At the end of the day, we opted not to, but I wholeheartedly support anybody who wants to do the data collection card that Marissa showed with Sustainable Coastlines for the DIY cleanup, the Surfrider Foundation data collection card we looked at on the last call. Even, you know, 808 Cleanups has some, they also have an app where you can enter that information. I just did a top 10 of what us Rotarians are collecting. Of course, I want you to submit the information to organizations like these guys that can do something. There's another Ocean Conservatory International Coastline Cleanup. They have a data sheet and they also have an app as well. So I encourage you guys to be thorough with the data collection. If you have the means and interest in doing that, submitting it to them. And then just the top 10 things for us Rotarians to kind of say, you know, as a D5000 initiative, this is how many plastic bags were removed from our beaches, from our parks, from our hiking trails, you know, from our coastlines that day.
Okay, thank you. So so we will collect those data sheets or data cards and then upload, you know, to our D5000 Google Forms, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Yeah, because we will also probably use the Surfrider's data card and then upload to their system as well, because that they can use to advocate, you know, for the policy changes and so on and so on. But I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to kind of, you know, double report if. You know, so our district information will just stay in the district, right?
Right. Yeah. As a district, we're not going to resubmit to avoid duplication of information. We're not going to resubmit that information. That's just kind of for us internally to take a look at how big of a scale this could be. And then as we get, you know, more familiar with and more comfortable with doing data collection and classification, we can expand and just, you know, frankly, like some organizations are using Surfrider, some organizations are using Sustainable Coastlines, and really use those and find a way to collect that data together.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, April.
So April, about Waimanalo, since we have a sorting table with Sustainable Coastlines, we don't have to put it in extra on the Rotary sheet.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you're going to be joining with Sustainable, we won't. I don't think it would make sense to have a separate area to collect Rotarian stuff. So it's 4 clubs, I think, that are going to be going out there to Waimanalo.
Actually, it's actually 5 clubs. It's the Metro is coming, and then the 4 Windward clubs.
Okay, yep, the whole hui. So it sounds like we won't be able to collect internal data from those 5 Rotary clubs without it being, you know, a bit more of a hassle. We'll just submit that information through Sustainable and know that you guys had a big, you know, part of that process.
And then Marissa, would we find out at the end how much was collected that day?
Yeah, we'll definitely always put out a report, like a summary of what we found in the data collection process. And if you want, I can make sure that we send that out directly to the Rotary participants.
That would be great. So I think we all want to know. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that would, I'm really hopeful to have a little hooey at the end of all of this and come together and kind of review our results, review our photos, our before and after pictures of the areas that we're cleaning up, any creative pictures or, you know, artwork that is done with the rubbish that was cleaned up that day. And I'm hopeful maybe we can come up with like some kind of, you know, friendly competition of, you know, which club picks up the most cigarette butts, which club picks up the most bottle caps. Well, you know, we'll kind of play it by ear and see how it goes, but a little friendly competition never hurt and always definitely encourages a stronger cleanup.
Great. And are you coming around? You mentioned that a few weeks ago, April, that you would go from station to station.
I am very hopeful to try to do that. I'm hopeful to jump in a minivan and kind of caravan around the island. And I have a few friends with drones that might be able to attend that day as well and get some footage of our cleanups above air, you know, just getting a nice aerial visual. If I can that day of, I'm going to try to make it around to as many cleanups as possible, a bit of a Circle Island cleanup and data collection tour, if you will.
Great.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited too. I don't see Dick May on the call today, but the James Campbell, you know, notoriously the dirtiest beach on Oahu, you know, we're the first folks that I understand got permission to go out there. We won't be the first ones there, but they gave us permission first. So it's a really big honor and opportunity for us to get back out there and give that area in Kahuku some love. So, and I've never been out there, so I'm really excited about that too.
So April, we collect all the rubbish off the beaches and the microplastics and weigh them and collect them and get the data. We bag them all up and we take them where?
And then it depends on each location of the cleanup. You know, for the city and county parks and parks, we have arrangements made. The Department of Facilities Management, for their locations, for the Adopt a Stream, Adopt a Park, they provide the cleanup, or they provide the rubbish removal, I should say, the day of. Out in Mokuleia is where you're cleaning up, yeah, right?
Correct. Yes.
I don't know if that falls under any one of those categories, so it may be up to your club to be able to find how and where to dispose of the rubbish that day of. We can follow up more on that and follow up with CJ and Kyle. They've been both very helpful. We had to get permits for some of the locations to have this stuff. They want to know what time the cleanup is going to be, how many volunteers, so they have an idea of how many bags of rubbish to pick up. If you guys haven't heard, the Pearl Harbor Historical Trail has grown to about 300 volunteers that we're expecting just at that 5-mile cleanup location alone. They're expecting to clean up vehicles. They're expecting, you know, large scale stuff. And then some of the cleanups on Kauai, I understand they're expecting the marine cleanup to be large scale cleanups of fishing nets. So every location poses these kind of different rubbish removal challenges. So we're just kind of working through those challenges through each location and hope to really have the rubbish pickup solidified as soon as possible.
Okay.
April, just one more question. You know, we are using this in grain bags, you know, from the Maui Brewing Company. If we don't have the weighing station, you know, before we take it to the dump, do you have any idea, you know, how much one of those grain bags, you know, normally, if it is full, weigh?
Gosh, Marissa, would you have any guesstimation on that? And I think that'll be another thing too, without those resources of having a scale on site. That's why we chose to do it by piece breakdown just for the internal collection, because we weren't sure how many locations might have a scale. But Marissa, any idea You know, the grain bags that we're referring to from Waikiki Brewing, how much, an idea of what that might weigh? I mean, it really depends on the materials inside.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It totally depends on what you're cleaning, definitely. The feed bags that we use are generally anywhere from like 5 pounds to 30 pounds. It really just depends on what you're cleaning, because if you're cleaning a bunch of plastic, like plastic cups and utensils and all that stuff, it'll be very light. But if you're cleaning metal, and anything heavier, any kind of like full plastic bottles or glass bottles, charcoal, sometimes people pick up off the beaches, so that will all be a lot heavier. We have hanging scales that we use to weigh bags like that. But another thing that we sometimes do, if people don't have access to a scale and they're just doing a small cleanup with one bag, we just ask them to estimate how much that bag weighs. Usually we'll ask them to estimate on the lower side so that we're not over reporting how much we cleaned, but just at least getting an understanding like, okay, this bag is at least 5 pounds, so we'll mark it as 5 pounds.
Here's a way to do it. You can use a bathroom scale and you hug the bag and you get on the scale. Then you subtract your weight from
Yep.
It's definitely one way to do it. And if anybody travels a lot, sometimes I know when I go back home, I take as much stuff with me as possible. A luggage scale. I have one of those like hanging luggage scales. That might be something that if anybody has those, to add to the list of, you know, bring your sunscreen, bring your bug spray, and bring your hanging scale to the cleanup too.
Good idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions about the data collection and classification? I think we reviewed a lot of different information about what we're picking up, how to quantify it. You know, Marissa gave some really awesome information for everybody who hasn't done something like this before, and really good input of, you know, there's no one way to collect it. You know, as Reese mentioned, you can yell it out and have one person writing it down on a clipboard. You can have one person at each bin. You know, it really just depends on the size and scale of everybody's cleanup. So I hope there was a lot of really good information for each one of us today.
Yes.
Awesome. And then I just wanted to screen share really quick too before we end this call today. I have been reached out to by Kanu Hawaii again. And for anybody who is still looking to add volunteers, if you need help recruiting volunteers for the day of, I highly recommend going directly to the link and registering your club's cleanup location individually with Kanu Hawaii. Our cleanup does fall in the week of Volunteer Week throughout the year, and it's also the week of Earth Day, as many of us know, but Earth Day is every day for us eco-Rotarians and eco-warriors out there. But yeah, Kanu Hawaii has offered to help support our event in any way. And even if you don't need the volunteers, it's a good way to get exposure and just bring awareness to what your club is doing. So I wanted to share that. And then I still have this available for any of the beach cleanups. This is a DIY made sand sifter made from recycled bicycle rims, some chicken wire, and some PVC pipe. If there's anybody on the island of Oahu, I'd be happy to meet up or deliver this to your location. As I mentioned, I'm going to try to go around to all the different cleanups, so no need for me to have it that day of. So if anybody wants that, let me know. I also have these hand sand sifters available as well for any of the beach cleanups, the wooden handle and the metal ones as well. I believe I have about a half a dozen of each. If you guys would like those, let me know, as well as the grain bags from Waikiki Brewing here on Oahu. And they've also supported our cleanups on Maui as well. So I just kind of wanted to make sure that everybody had that stuff, you know, knowing that it's available for you in your cleanup should you need. And yeah, stop share. So if anybody needs any of that, please reach out to me. Let me know. Kate is the only one that has taken advantage so far. So I still have a few left. If you guys would like, let me know.
Thank you, April.
No problem. If there's no other questions or thoughts, I think we can conclude this meeting. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
And can
All
I
right.
remind everybody, please go to Rotary Club Central after you do your event and put your volunteer hours into Rotary Club Central. Thanks.
Okie dokie. Okay, so this is, we got one more planning meeting before the big day. We're going to meet up next Thursday and we're just going to review some safety tips for the day of. We're going to go over the resource lists that we have available for anybody. If you come across something that you're not familiar with how to deal with the day of the pickup, let me know. But yeah, if you guys have any questions between now and then of the sign up waiver, the digital version is available online. We had to resend it out to some folks because they were not providing answers. So we now required answers for all the questions online. And the printable version of the data collection, and then the digital form to enter the totals at the end of the day. But any questions between now and then, feel free to send me an email, give me a call. And thank you all again for joining this Ridge to Reef data collection project. I'm so excited to see what we can all accomplish together. It's been a really awesome, amazing learning experience. And I feel like we're only going to get better and stronger with each cleanup and data collection going forward. So thank you all again. And thank you so much, Marissa, for coming in today and giving an awesome presentation. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Awesome.
Anyone ever told you you have an excellent NPR voice?
All right, Naomi, I think it's shaping up pretty good. Lots of
Yeah.